Hello everybody, this is Orko sir from Psych Academy. Welcome to today's PYQ session on logical reasoning from paper 1 or general aptitude. Today's session will contain 100 PYQs, all from previous year's questions, mostly from 2022 to 2025. Today we will be discussing all the answers to the questions, analyzing how exactly to identify the answers, why which answer is correct, and how to identify that which answer, which question is from which theory, and also how the tricks that we have to memorize the theories so that they don't get confused with other theories. So without more ado, let's start. The instructions for today's session: try answering the questions by yourself before explanation. This is very important. This is how we stay in practice, and this is how we keep our mind active for answering questions. Keep a note of the incorrect answers that you have. So the way I suggest is that you write down the numbers of the incorrect questions, the questions for which you did not get the answers correct at the first go, so that you can come back to those questions and verify later if you get it right the later times. Even for correct answers, listen to the explanations, because sometimes we get answers correct just by guesswork. But that may be lucky at this point of time, may not be the same in the examination. So we have to understand the logic behind it. Anyway, logical reasoning is what we are doing right now. Repeat later and evaluate progress. That is how much better you are getting at answering these questions. So first, which among the following is correct about inference and its times? Validity and invalidity do not apply to deductive arguments. This is incorrect. Deductive arguments, we judge them by their validity and invalidity. Inductive arguments are weak or strong. They are asking correct, not incorrect. This is one of the things that we always have to identify. Are they asking correct or incorrect? Are they asking applies or do not apply? Inductive arguments are weak or strong. Yes, this is correct. Deductive arguments are either true or false. No, arguments can never be true or false. Arguments are valid or invalid. It can even be sound or unsound, but never true or false. True or false is for individual propositions. Single propositions are either valid or invalid. This is also not correct, because propositions are true or false. Just simple. Is it correct? Or it's like if we say something like Tokyo is in Delhi. It is not an argument, it's just a statement that is made which can be judged to be true or false. Arguments by analogy are classified as valid, no; classified as invalid, no; claimed to follow the premises with logical necessity, no; probably. Okay, so how does this work? Analogy means it means comparison, right? So for example, it would be something like this: that tiger is a big cat, it is carnivorous. So lion is a big cat, hence we think lion may be carnivorous, right? This is how analogy reasoning works, by comparison. Now, first of all, it cannot be classified as valid or invalid because none of them are deductive. Analogy reasoning, remember, analogy reasoning is inductive in nature. In deductive reasoning, we know we have all the information beforehand in the premises, in the statements. In inductive reasoning, we do not know everything. We are just making a prediction based on the information that we have. So in analogy reasoning, we are making a comparison that since tigers are big cats and like this, maybe lions and big cats will also be like this. We are not sure about it. Whenever we are not sure about it, it cannot be deductive reasoning. So no validity, no invalidity. Inductive is only probable, never guaranteed to be true. Claimed to follow from their premises with logical necessity. So this is the deductive argument, that if the premises are true, the conclusion will have to be true. That is what it means, from that follows from the premises with logical necessity. That the conclusion contains everything, contains things that is already present in the propositions, which is not the case. We do not know that lions are exactly the same, because you can say tigers are big cats who have stripes, jaguars are big cats who have stripes, leopards have big cats who have patterns on their body, so lions have patterns on their body. That is not the case. So hence it is only inductive. Which of the following is incorrect? Truth is an attribute of propositions. This is true. Validity is an attribute of an argument. This is also correct. Invalidity is an attribute of an argument. Again, correct. Falsity is an attribute of an argument. This is incorrect, okay? Because truth and falsity, these are for propositions. Validity and invalidity is for arguments. So falsity is not an attribute of an argument. Abhay's mind is a cave, deep, dark, and full of bats. Which of the following are correct about this above statement? Okay. It contains an analogical argument. No, where is the argument? Where is the argument? That is, you are making an argument. Remember, for anything to be considered an argument, there has to be a claim that is made. Are you saying that Abhay's mind is a cave, deep, dark, and full of bats? So just like other caves, Abhay's mind can be explored by human beings, right? Or Abhay's mind is does not have a lot of sunlight coming in. Have you made any kind of conclusions like that? No, you have just given a description like deep, dark, and full of bat. I think Abhay is secretly Batman. It is a valid and sound argument. No, there is no argument. It contains an analogy. Yes, it does contain an analogy. Let's look at the other one. Valid but not a sound argument. It is not an argument. So yes, it contains an analogy because it contains a comparison. His mind is like a cave, deep, dark, and full of bats. What can be correctly claimed about the following? I ate because I was hungry. Okay. So this is again not an argument. Okay. This is just a statement with a bit of explanation like because I was hungry. So it is not like he was hungry. So I think he ate. No, it is not like he has eaten. So I think he was hungry. No, it is not getting into any kind of conclusion. It is stating what has happened without conclusion, no argument. So it's an argument. No, it's a non-argument. That is true. It's a non-argument. It's an explanation. Yes, I ate because I was hungry. I am explaining myself. So it's a non-argument. An explanation, it's a non-argument. Illustration, no. See, this one was an illustration. Abhay's mind is a cave, right? Deep, dark, and full of bats. This is the illustration. This is the picture that is drawn, the example. This illustration. But that is where you are just elaborating on your analogy. But when you are saying because, for, since, so, hence, therefore, it is explanation. Identify the pattern of the argument in the following. Habits are like a cable. Okay. We weave a strand of it every day and soon it cannot be broken. Okay. This is clearly analogy. So causal argument, no. Does it ask? It is saying that habits are like a cable. Is it asking that how exactly are habits caused? What is the source of habits? It is just that we weave a strand of it every day. Why? The causal question of why is not here. So hence this is not a causal argument. It's an argument from analogy, true. Authority, no, because authority is about you hearing it from somebody else, like a teacher, a textbook, a research article, whatever. A definition, if there's a definition. So for example, you say, if habits are defined as a cable, then from the cable and definition, we can understand these are the properties of a cable. No, cable is not a definition of habit. So it is not argument from definition either. Which among the following is not a common pattern of deductive reasoning? Hypothetical syllogism. Hypothetical means if, then. This is a form of deductive reasoning. Categorical syllogism. Like all dogs are mammals, all mammals breathe air, so all dogs breathe air. That's categorical. Argument from definition. This is also deductive because when you have a definition, it clearly states that this is exactly what it is. It is giving an explanation of for example, a definition of cats. It will apply to all cats that there is. So again, it is deduction. Predictive argument. This is not a common pattern of deductive reasoning because predictive is by nature inductive. The point is, predictive means you are discussing something that might happen in the future, right? And the future is not something that we know of. So since we do not know the future, it cannot be deductive, it is inductive. Which of the following statements are true? Truth and falsehood are true. Okay. Truth and falsehood are attributes of individual propositions. Correct. Validity can never apply to any single proposition by itself. Also correct. Validity requires an argument. In a valid argument, all of its premises have to be true, not the case. For example, if you say that all dogs are birds, Labrador is a dog, hence Labrador is a bird. It is based on just the logic, based on the premises, the logic is valid, the reasoning is valid. But all birds are, or all dogs are birds, this is not true. So premises does not have to be true in a valid argument, because when premises have to be true with a valid argument, it is about soundness, not validity. A valid deductive argument cannot have all true premises and a false conclusion. This is true, of course. Because if you have all the true premises and the reasoning is also valid, then yes, conclusion has to be true. That is the definition of deductive reasoning. So A, B, and D, option A. Option A, okay, not B, option A. Which of the following statements are true? Validity can never apply. Okay, similar but not the same. Validity can never apply to any single proposition by itself. This is true. Concept of truth can apply to single propositions. True. Propositions by themselves can be valid but not invalid. Incorrect, because propositions are only about true or false. Arguments can be valid or invalid. Proposition cannot be valid by itself, though it can be invalid on its own. Again, this is also incorrect. So A and B. A and B only, option B. Statement 1. Arguments from analogy are generally deductive, weak, or strong. No, arguments from analogy are inductive, because in analogy, once again, we do not have information about all the instances. So it is only likely to be true, not guaranteed to be true, which means it is inductive. Arguments from analogy are generally inductive and neither valid nor invalid. This is correct, because inductive reasoning are neither valid nor invalid. They are only strong or weak, but not valid or invalid. So statement 1 is incorrect, but statement 2 is correct. That is option D. Pick a correct observation from the following argument. All dogs are cats. Okay. All cats are whales. All right. Therefore, all whales are dogs. Okay. It is a valid argument and contains true premise, true conclusion. No, dogs are not cats, cats are not whales. It is an invalid argument and contains a false premise and a true conclusion. So all whales are dogs. This is not a true conclusion. So it does not have a true conclusion. It is an invalid argument, yes, because it says also, look at this, look at the Venn diagram, okay? All dogs are cats. The Venn diagram would be like this, that this is the circle of dogs and a larger circle of cats. So all dogs are cats. Now all cats are whales. So an even larger circle of whales. So all cats are whales. That also we got. Now all whales are dogs. Who said that? Dogs is such a tiny category. Whales is so much larger. It's possible that all whales are dogs. This would be possible if you have just one criteria where you have dogs, cats, whales, all of them are same group only. Then it is possible. But it doesn't have to be. Whales is a larger category than dogs. So once again, we cannot say that the argument is valid. In fact, it is an invalid argument. So invalid argument and contains a false premise, true, and a false conclusion. So this is the correct answer. The invalid argument contains a true premise. No, it does not have true premise. All dogs are cats, all cats are whales. Both the premises are incorrect and false. So, and a false conclusion. So it is an invalid argument and contains a false premise and a false conclusion, option C. Statement 1. The statement, Pradeep's mind is a cave, deep, dark, and full of bats. Who came up with this? Is an analogy which is only descriptive in nature. That is true. It is an analogy. There is an analogy comparison and it's descriptive. No argument here. Statement, Pradeep's mind is a cave, deep, dark, and full of birds. Is an analogy which contains an argument. No, it does not have an argument. And as you can see in these statements, you see these two, statement 1 and statement 2, They cannot be true together anyway. You can see that they are contradictory. They cannot be true together. Sometimes you get statements like these, which makes it easy to understand that at least one of them has to be false. So in this case, statement 2 is incorrect. So statement 1 is correct, but statement 2 is incorrect. That is option C. The form of inductive argument is evaluated in degrees of likelihood or probability. This is correct because inductive argument is likely to be true, not entirely directly guaranteed to be true. A strong inductive argument that has all the true premises is called a cogent argument. This is also true. So understand, for inductive argument to be cogent, premises have to be true plus reasoning has to be strong. For soundness, which applies for deductive reasoning, premises have to be true plus reasoning has to be valid. Remember the terms. Valid, sound is for deductive reasoning. Strong, cogent is for inductive reasoning. So a strong inductive argument that has all the true premises is called a cogent argument. This is also true. So both statement 1 and statement 2 are correct. Statement 1. In deductive arguments, the claim is made that conclusions in deductive arguments, the conclusions follow with certainty from their premises. Okay. I'll have to check the language a bit, but the point is, in deductive arguments, the claim is made that the conclusions follow with certainty from premises, which means that the conclusions has to follow directly from the premises and with valid reasoning, not that it is you are taking into any extra information into account like you do in inductive, which means it is true. Statement 2. In any inductive argument, if it is good, brings to light in its conclusion already what was buried in its premises. No, this is incorrect. So already what was buried in its premises, which means the premises have already given you all the information. Example, all dogs are mammals. Labrador is a dog, hence Labrador is a mammal. So all the information in the conclusion is already given in the premises, but that is for deductive reasoning. Because in inductive reasoning, the point is you are making conclusions about things about which you don't know everything about, right? So if you don't know everything about it, then how can you have the conclusion buried in its premises? In fact, inductive reasoning, inductive arguments, even if they are very strong, they are not guaranteed to be true. So if it was already there in the conclusion, why would we say that it is never guaranteed to be true? How can it ever be false if it was already in the premises? So statement 2 is incorrect. So statement 1 is correct, but statement 2 is incorrect. That is option C. Observe the following argument and pick the correct answer. All pigs are sheep. Okay. All sheep are goats. Okay. Therefore, all pigs are goats. Just try to make the Venn diagram. Whenever you see categorical syllogism problems, Venn diagrams. All pigs are sheep. So, this is the circle of pigs. This is the circle of sheep. All pigs are sheep. All sheep are goats. All sheep are goats. Therefore, all pigs are goats. All pigs are goats. Correct. So a valid argument, because if the premises were true, the conclusion would have been true. Yes, this is true. If the premises were true, you can see that the pigs are falling under the category of goats. An invalid argument because the conclusion does not, there's quite a bit of typos out here. So because the conclusion does not follow from the premises, this is not true or not correct. The conclusion is probably true. No. The conclusion, first of all, we know that all pigs are not goats. This conclusion is not true. And the second point is, this is where we get it, is that probably true. Probably is a statement used for inductive reasoning, not deductive. Deductive is guaranteed truth or falsity. It is a weak argument. Again, no, because a weak argument is used for inductive reasoning. You can say it's a weak argument. just by vocabulary, but weak argument means inductive. It is a valid argument. So A only. That is option A. It is only that the premises themselves are not true. The approach of accepting knowledge because people have agreed upon it, other people have agreed upon it, okay, following a reasonable argument is known as authoritarian, a priori, scientific, experiential. This is a priori. Why? First of all, because you have not searched or done any research yourself. Others have agreed upon it, so you have accepted it. So a priori means before doing any research yourself. A posteriori means that after experience, after you have found things out yourself. So the question is, why not authoritarian? Because other people have agreed upon it. This is, after all, information from authority, right? Others have agreed upon it. So why not authoritarian? The difference between authoritarian and authoritative is that authoritative is that others have agreed upon it. Authoritarian is about a single source. It can be a person, it can be a book, it can be a research paper, whatever be the case. It is a single source, a single verifiable source that you know who the source is. From there, you get authoritarian. But authoritative is when a lot of people have agreed upon it. So this is actually the bandwagon effect. But since that is not there in the option, it is a priori. Not scientific, not experiential, because again, you have not done anything. You have simply accepted what others are agreeing. Assertion. A valid deductive argument with all true premises will lead to a true conclusion. Correct. Reasoning. In a valid deductive argument, conclusion follows from the premises. Yes. With absolute necessity. This is also true. With absolute necessity means that the conclusion will only follow whatever is there in the premises, nothing more than that, which is exactly why if the premises are true, it will lead to a true conclusion, because the conclusion does not contain anything that the premises do not contain. So both A and R are true, and R is the correct explanation of A. In a valid categorical syllogism, if A is distributed, if a term is distributed in the conclusion, then it must be distributed in the premises. Exactly. Because the thing is, categorical syllogism is, after all, this term should be here. Categorical syllogism is, after all, deductive reasoning. And in deductive reasoning, you are not allowed to conclude anything that is not there in the premises. Then it would be invalid. So if it is a valid one, then what happens is, so distributed means, like for example, if we say all dogs are mammals. So here we are talking about all dogs, right? All dogs that there is. So this is distributed. While mammals, we are not talking about all mammals. Some mammals which are dogs, yes, but other mammals we're not talking about. So this is not distributed. This is undistributed. So for anything to be distributed in the premises, that in the premises, if we have to say, talk about all instances of a category, it has to come from the, or if it is distributed in the conclusion, it has to come from the premises. Reasoning. Conclusion of a valid argument cannot assert any more than is contained in the premises. Exactly. This is why if it is distributed in the conclusion, it has to distribute in the premises also. So both A and R are true, and R is the correct explanation of A. So understand distribution a bit here. All dogs are mammals. Dogs are distributed. Mammals are not. If I said like this, that no dogs are birds. Now you see, we are talking about all dogs that exist and none of them are birds. We are also saying all birds that exist, none of them are dogs, because they are all two separate categories. So see, dogs and birds. So in this case, both are distributed. But in the first case, we can write like this. So dogs is distributed, mammals is not. We don't know about all mammals. But here, since they're entirely separate, we know that no dog, all of the dogs are not falling under birds, and all of the birds are not falling under dogs. This is how distribution and non-distribution works. Analogical arguments are deductive in nature, no inductive in nature. Yes, valid, no validity, invalidity, both about deductive So option B. Statement 1. The evaluation of an argument involves two steps, namely evaluating a link between premises and conclusion, that is valid or invalid, and evaluating the truth of the premises, that is truth or falsity, like we discussed. Sound argument is equal to true premises plus valid reasoning. So statement 1 is true. Statement 2. Deductive argument in which the conclusion actually follows from the premises are said to be valid, correct? And those that also have true premises are said to be sound. So this is the basic definition. So both statement 1 and statement 2 are true. Option A. Here this is I get confused seeing these things myself. Okay, so please subscribe to my channel, because you will be getting free lessons of PYQs, exam updates, strategies, tips, all of it. And I know the number of videos in the channel is a bit low now, because we are just starting out. But very soon we already have videos planned out and the materials more or less prepared. So very soon more and more videos will be coming. So please subscribe if you want your preparation to get much better than it already is. And while subscribing, please ensure to click the bell icon, because that is when you get all the notifications. Otherwise, you get only half the notifications. That's it. Which of the following statements are so related that they cannot both be true, nor can they both be false? Okay, this is contradictory. This is from the square of oppositions. Okay, so just before starting, let's do the square of opposition a bit. So this is A, universal affirmative, E, universal negative, I, particular affirmative, O, particular negative. So this is alternation, subalternation. No, this is contrary, sorry. This is contrary, subcontrary, subcontrary. These two out here, these are subalternations. And this diagonal and this diagonal, these are contradictory. Okay. And out here, I also write false and true. Why? Because a contrary, that is A and E together, can be false together, but cannot be true together. I and O can be true together, but cannot be false together. This is the square of opposition. This is, after all, a PYQ session, so I am not delving very deep into it. But if you need more refreshers on, or more help on exactly how the square of opposition works, you can join the course. Details will be given, uploaded very soon. Now, so we have to, whenever we are looking at things that cannot both be true and both be false together, that is, they are not true, cannot be true together, cannot be false together, then we are looking at contradictory statements. Contradictory means A and O and I and E. That is one universal positive versus particular negative, universal negative, particular positive. So all dogs are omnivores. This is A. Some dogs are omnivores. This is I. Some dogs are not omnivores. This is O. And no dogs are omnivores. That is E. So we have A and O. So we have AC and IE. So BD. Now let's see among these which of them are in the options. AC, yes, C, BD is not there. So option A, AC. This is how you need to do. You just need to figure out, based on the statement, you need to figure out which one are they looking for. That is, it cannot be true together, cannot be false together, contradictory. It can be false together, but not true together, contrary. It can be true together, but not false together, that is subcontrary. And when one is true, the other is unverified, that is subalternate. So which of the following statements are logically equivalent? Some animals are herbivores. Okay, this is an I type of statement. R means positive, some means in particular. Some non-herbivores are not animals. Okay, this is a O type statement. Some animals are non-herbivores. Okay, this is again an O type statement. Some animals are not non-herbivores. This is O type, but you can see that some animals are herbivores. Okay, and some animals are not non-herbivores. So double negative, which means we can cross them out. So some animals are herbivores, which is the same as A. So A and D are equivalent logical. A and D. What can be correctly inferred from the mode A double E in the fourth figure? Okay, so now we are getting into modes. Remember, how do we calculate modes? We have 4 modes, right? 1, 2, 3, 4. So start with MP, SM. So what are these? M is the middle term, S is the subject, P is the predicate. And subject and predicate is based on the final conclusion, not the premises. So from the conclusion, so okay, I'll just give a small example. All dogs are mammals. Now let's say that all Labradors are dogs. And then I can say that all Labrador are mammals. So this is the conclusion, right? This is premise 1, premise 2, and conclusion. So we have to look at the conclusion first. In conclusion, all Labrador are mammals. So this is the subject and this is the predicate. Now, based on this, so see, we know that Labrador is the subject, right? So out here we see that this is the subject. We see the mammals are predicate. So this is the predicate. And dogs are there in the major premise, minor premise, but not in the conclusion. So dog is the middle term. So based on this part, based on this format of sectioning, you see MP, SM, MP, SM, and finally SP. SP remains the same all throughout. So this is the first figure. And once you only have to remember the first figure, okay? Everything else you can figure out later. So I'm showing you how to figure that out. First figure is MP, SM, SP. You don't need to write SP always. Second figure, you just turn these other way around. PM, SM, SP. Third figure. So MP remains the same. SM is now turned. MP, MS, SP. And in the fourth figure, you turn both of them around. PM and MS. So since SP is the same in all of it, you don't always need to write the SP, subject, predicate. These are the 4 figures. First write MPSM, then turn only first one, PMSM, then turn only second one, MPMS, then turn both of them, so PM and MS, turn or reverse. So in the fourth figure, what is the mode? PM and MS. This is the mode of the fourth figure. So conclusion distributes none of its terms. Does the conclusion distribute none of its terms? Again, conclusion, mood does not discuss about conclusion. Mood is about the premises. Middle term is distributed in both the premises. Let me see. No, middle term is distributed in both premises in figure 2. This is the middle term. And remember which one is distributed. Okay, the distributed one is the one that is in the first area. Okay, so when you are saying MP, SM, PM, SM, right? So these ones, the ones that are presented first, before, these are the ones that are distributed. So for example, all dogs are mammals. So if this is the question that we have, all dogs are mammals, then all dogs or dogs is distributed. We are talking about all dogs, right? We are talking about all dogs. We're not talking about all mammals. So dogs distributed. The first one distributed. The first one distributed. So it says the middle term is distributed in both the premises. No. In this case, the middle term is the later one. So it is not distributed. The arguments commits illicit minor fallacy. Again, we don't know. Because fallacy, it may commit illicit minor fallacy, it may not commit illicit minor fallacy. For that, only the figure and mood and figure is not enough. We also have to understand what exactly is the statements. The middle term appears as a predicate in the major premise. The major premise, see, this is the major premise. Remember, the first premise, this first premise is the major premise. So in the major premise, the middle term or M comes as a predicate, that is second. So option D is correct. Anyway, I'm using a lot of codings and a lot of abstract terms out here. But the point is, we just have to get familiar with this MP, right? So this is the major premise, minor premise, and within each of the premises, the one that comes first is the subject, what the one that comes later is the predicate, which is a separate predicate than this subject and predicate. This is for the conclusion. And in each of the situations, only the first one of the subjects are distributed, not the predicates. Identify the correct claims in the context of mode AII in second figure. And what are these AII? These are the kinds of propositions that we have. A means universal positive, I means particular positive, again I means particular positive. So second figure, where do we get the second figure from? MP, SM. So from here we can write, we just reverse this, PM, SM. So the middle term appears as predicate in both the premises. Yes, it's predicate in both the premises. This is the second figure, right? So this is true. Just by this, we can already understand option B has to be true. This is the only one that has A. Still, let's look at it. It commits fallacy of undistributed middle term. This is also true. Because look here, what did we just discuss? That it is the first term that gets distributed. So in here, in both the premises, the middle term is the second one, right? Which means it is not distributed in either of the scenarios. So B is also true. See, middle term is distributed in the major premises. No, middle term is not distributed. Draws negative conclusion. Again, no, we do not know if the conclusion is negative because after all, I. So I, this is the affirmative conclusion. This is a positive conclusion. It doesn't. This is the major premise, the minor premise, and the conclusion. I is a positive conclusion. So no, it does not have a negative conclusion. Conclusion distributes neither of its terms. Yes, because the conclusion, when you see the I figure, I means sum, right? I is sum means particular. So it's particular. So only when I write that all dogs are mammals, then you have the idea that all dogs are mammals. Then you say we are talking about all dogs. If the last one is I, that is only some dogs are mammals, then how can you say dogs are distributed? It does not distribute, and mammals is anyway not distributed, right? So conclusion distributes neither of its term. E is also correct, A, B, and E. Which of the following are correct in the context of distribution of terms? A proposition distributes its predicate term. No. Affirmative ones, like we just discussed out here and we discussed out here also. Affirmative propositions do not distribute the predicate. They only distribute the subject. So A proposition distributes its predicate term is incorrect. E proposition distributes its subject and predicate. Yes, because it is like no dogs or birds, where dogs is a separate category, birds is a separate category, and we discuss all of them. So this is correct. I proposition distributes only the subject term. No, I proposition does not distribute anything because I proposition is about particular positive. It does not distribute anything. O proposition distributes only the predicate term. This is true because O proposition, it is like saying some dogs are not birds. Now, some dogs, they are not any kind of bird at all. So, for negative conclusions, the predicate is distributed. That is, O proposition distributes only the predicate term. A proposition distributes both its subject and predicate terms. It does not. So, it is option B and D. B and D only, option B. The statement, all cows are herbivores, is given as true. Okay. Then which of the following statements can be immediately inferred to be true? Well, if all cows are herbivores, then no herbivores are cows. How can that be? All the herbivores are cows. This is not true. Some cows are herbivores. Yes, if all cows are herbivores, some cows have to be herbivores. Some herbivores are not cows. We don't know. What if herbivores and cows are the same group only? then all cows are herbivores and all herbivores are cows. So some herbivores, not cows, may not work. We don't know that. All non-cows are non-herbivores. We also don't know that. All non-cows are non-herbivores basically means that every herbivore is a cow only, which we do not know. So only option B. Identify the figure and mode in the following. So let's see how to identify. All sodium salts are water soluble substances. Okay. All soaps are sodium salts. Okay. Therefore, all soaps are water soluble substances. Remember, when we are trying to figure out the figure, then what we have to look at first is the conclusion. All soaps are water soluble substances, which means that soaps is the subject and water soluble substances are the predicate. So what is the subject? So S out here. So here all sodium salts, and sodium salts is written but not there in the conclusion. So sodium salt is the middle term. So how do we get it? And water soluble substances, this is the predicate term. Soaps are the subject term. So the format is MP, all right. Then SM. Okay, so this is first figure. So this is first figure. We already can see here. And this is triple A. Let's see, all sodium salts are water soluble. Positive and all means A statement. Again, all soaps. Again, all soaps. And all of the statements are positive. They are just R. So A, triple A, first figure. Consider the following statements in square of opposition. Okay. If A is true, E is false. So again, let's draw the square of opposition. A, E, I, O. This is false, this is true, which means A and E can be false together but cannot be true together. So if A is true, since they cannot be true together, E has to be false. This is correct. If E is false, O is undetermined. If E is false, no, because the point is E is false. So okay, E is like no dogs are birds. This is false. So it can be that some dogs are birds. It can also be that some dogs are not birds. We do not know that. So it is undetermined. So this is also true. Then we have if I is false, A is true. Not necessarily. It can be that some dogs are mammals. Fine. Maybe that is incorrect. But is it that no dogs are mammals or only some mammals are not dogs? How do we know that? So again, this is not true. If O is true, I is true. If O is true, I is true. Not guaranteed. They can be true together, but it can also be that one of them is true, one of them is false. So not guaranteed that if O is true, I has to be true. If I is true, then A is false. Again, if I is true, like some dogs are mammals. Okay, true. It can be that some dogs are not mammals. It can be that all dogs are mammals. How do we understand that? It is not, it is undetermined. It is never sure. This is also not true. A and B, that is option A and B. When two propositions with same subject and predicate terms agree in quality but differ in quantity. So again, look at this. A, E, I, O. Now these two, they have the same quality, that is positive or negative, but they don't have the same quantity. Universal, particular. So propositions with same subject and same predicate, so the same statement, agree in quality, that is these are in the same quality, but do not agree in quantity. So these are subalternation. But subalternation is not given in the option, so it has to be corresponding. Because contrary is like this, subcontrary is like this, contradictory is like this. Identify the correct code on the basis of the following argument. All actors are athletes, some actors are comedians, therefore some comedians are athletes. Okay, so let's look at the statements. All actors are athletes. This is an A kind of statement. Some actors are comedians. This is an I kind of statement. Some comedians are athletes, so I kind of statement. We already know A and C, A triple I. This is the option. Now let's look at the subject predicate. Some comedians, this is the conclusion. We have to look at the conclusion first. Some comedians are athletes. So this is subject, this is predicate. So comedians is subject and athletes is predicate. So the actors are the middle term. So we have MP, okay, MP, and we have MS, MS, then SP. So this is the third figure. The first figure is something like this. The first figure is MP, SM, SP. But since we have reversed this MS, so this is the third figure. So AII, third figure. Which of the following is correct in the context of syllogistic rules? With two negative premises, a negative conclusion is drawn. Usually correct. Not guaranteed to be, but usually correct. Any term distributed in the premises must be distributed in the conclusion. No. If it is distributed in the conclusion, then it has to be distributed in the premises. But just because it is distributed in the premises does not mean it will be distributed in the conclusion. Because the conclusion follows from premise. Premise does not follow from conclusion. Middle term must be distributed in both the premises, again, not necessarily. So for example, if you say something like out here, you see, all actors are athletes, some actors are comedians. See, actors are the middle term, right? But in the second statement, you have some actors. It is not distributed in both the statements. So middle term must be distributed in the both the premises, not true. Syllogistic argument must contain only three terms. This is the true one, option D. Because option A is usually true, not guaranteed to be true. But option D, it only has three terms, the major term, the minor term, and the middle term. This is the same for Indian logic also. The major term is written as Sadhya. The minor term is written as the Paksha, and the middle term is written as the Hit. Identify the figure of the following. All great scientists are college graduates. Some professional athletes are college graduates. Therefore, some professional athletes are great scientists. Let's look at the conclusion. Some professional athletes, this is the subject. Great scientist is the predicate. So great scientists, this is predicate, which means this will be middle term. Some professional athletes, that is the subject, and college graduates is again the middle term. So the format is PM, then you have SM, then you have SP. So you see the first figure was MP, SM, then SP. And from here you can see that only this part has been reversed, this part remains the same, which means this is the second figure. Which among the following are contradictory propositions? Remember, contradictory means it is A and O and E and I. These are the only contradictory pairs that we have. So all judges are lawyers. This is A. Some judges are lawyers. This is I. No lawyers are judges. Okay, this is no lawyers are judges. This is E. Some judges are not lawyers. This is O. Some lawyers are not judges. This is O. So from here, let's look at the pairs A and O. So A and D, A and E. So A and within some all judges are lawyer, and some judges are not lawyers. See, A and D, they cannot be true together, right? Contradictory, because if you say that all judges are lawyers, then how can we say that some judges are not lawyers? We are already saying all of them are lawyers. So A and D works. A and E does not work. Why does A and E does not match? Because in A, the statement is about judges, but in E, the statement is about lawyers. If the subject is not the same, you cannot compare. It does not work like that. So, but this one, the judges and judges subject is same, so you can compare. AD works. And some judges, see, these are separate subjects, so even these cannot be compared. So only A and D. Option D, A and D only. Which of the following statements are logically equivalent? Okay. some non-dogs are non-friendly animals. All right. Some dogs are friendly animals. So we are saying that dogs and friendly animals may have a bit of interaction. That is, some dogs are friendly animals. Some friendly animals or dogs, which is again the same. Some friendly animals or dog with a bit of interaction. So B and C are already logically equivalent. All dogs are friendly animals. That does not match with any of them. This is a all statement. These all three are some statements. So D is anyway out of the picture. And out here, non-dogs, non-friendly animals, you do not find these in any other statement. So the easiest way to compare, see, look at it like this. I'll just remove all ink from the slide. So now you can see, you have to see the quantifiers. D, as you can see, this quantifier does not match with any of them. So D is out of the competition. Then you have to look at the subjects and predicates, right? Now the thing is, dogs and dogs match. Friendly animals match. But non-dogs, non-friendly animals, where do you find them? You don't find them anywhere else. So they are anyway out of the competition. You are left with only two, B and C. That is option A. Which of the following are true regards just statements are true regarding the word God? A, it is meaningless. Okay, not true. A is God is not meaningless, even concept wise. I mean, you can say that God exists. You can be an atheist and say that God does not exist. But how can you say it is meaningless? Because you are stating that something does not exist. You are discussing about it. So it is not meaningless. It is meaningful. Yes, it is meaningful. The word God has no intention. That could be its meaning. Okay, so intention and extension. Intention means that the concept that you have inside your own mind, and extension is the physical representation of it. For example, the concept of a red roundish object which is sweet to eat and healthy for me is the intention, while the actual fruit apple that I'm holding in my hand, that is the extension. Intention is my own idea. Extension is the actual object. The word God has no intention. How can this be true? We have an idea of God in our mind. So this is also not true. D, in case of the word God, there is an intention. That is the meaning. Exactly. Because for God, the intention is the meaning. God does not have any verifiable extension. It is not there it is not something that you can verify physically by its presence. So it is the intention is the meaning. So B and D, that is option A. If the statement some rectangles are squares is given as true, then which of the following statements can be inferred to be false? So some rectangles are squares. So it can be drawn in two ways. So we can draw it like this, that rectangles, squares. Some rectangles are squares. We can also draw it like this. Squares. So some rectangles are squares, some of them. We can also draw it like this, where R and S are the same thing. So again, some rectangles are squares. So based on this, what can we say? Which of these can be inferred to be false? Now all rectangles are square. It is possible that all rectangles are squares. So we cannot directly infer it to be false. Some rectangles are not squares. See, some rectangles are not squares. So this can also be true. Some squares are not rectangles. See, this can also be true that some squares are not rectangles, not what we are looking for. We are looking for the false one. No rectangles are square. This does not work because no rectangles are square means this is the formulation. This is not any of the graphs that we have drawn. So this does not work. So no rectangles are square is the incorrect one. Option B, that is only D. If the statement all plants are carnivorous is given as false. Okay. So this all plants are carnivorous. So basically plants carnivorous. This Venn diagram that we have is incorrect. Is given as false. Which of the following statements can be inferred to be true? Well, all plants are carnivorous. This is false. Fine. So some non-plants are non-carnivorous. See, this is talking about non-plants. while the statement is about plants. They do not match, do not compare. So no. No plants are carnivorous. It is possible that it is true. It can easily be that no plants are carnivorous, which is why all plants are carnivorous are false. So it can be true. Some plants are carnivorous while others are not, can also be true. Some plants are not carnivorous. This can also be true. So basically it is all plants are carnivorous. This is false. All right. Which means that some plants can be carnivorous, some plants can be not carnivorous. All plants are carnivorous. Yes, okay. So no plants are carnivorous. That is, this one is given as false. All plants carnivorous is false, which means no plants are carnivorous is possible. Some plants are carnivorous is possible because all is the one attack. And if some plants are carnivorous, some can be not carnivorous. So I think there's a bit of mistake in the answers. The correct answer out here is B, C, and D. If the statement no squares or circles are given as true, which means squares is separate, circle is separate, they do not match, is given as true, which of the following can be immediately inferred to be false? So if no squares are circles and you are writing all squares are circles, this is of course immediately false. So one of the things that we are looking for false. No squares are circles. Okay, some circles are not squares. Yes, some circles are not squares. So this is also so this is true. So we cannot take this option. This is true. We cannot take this option. Some squares are circles. Some squares are circles. No, they are separate from each other. It is given as true. So some squares cannot be circles. So this is a false option. Some squares are not circles. Some squares are not circles. This is actually true. So not what we are looking for. So option B, B and C on. Which of the following is arranged in the order of decreasing extension? Okay. So extension means, please remember this for these kinds of questions, increasing, decreasing extension. Extension means large. Intention means small. So when you have decreasing extension, which means it is going from large to small. When you have increasing extension, it is going from small to large. Okay. And just the opposite. So increasing extension. So extension, since it is large, decreasing extension, large to small, increasing extension, small, or I'll do it the other way. Small to large. And this is just the opposite for intention. Intention is small. So increasing intention means you are going from large to small, and decreasing intention means small to large. Anyway, all you have to really remember is just one of them. That is decreasing in extension. Decreasing extension means from large to small. So from large to small. If you remember this, from there you can infer all the other kinds. So from large to small, we have mathematics, then arithmetic, then numbers, then prime numbers. Correct? Prime numbers is smaller than numbers. So not what we are looking for. Arithmetic is smaller than mathematics. So no. Numbers is okay, bigger than prime numbers, but prime numbers is smaller than arithmetic. No. So big to small, mathematics, arithmetic, numbers, prime numbers. Two propositions are contradictory. Again, contradictory means A and O, E and I. If they cannot both be true, yes, they cannot both be true. Of the pair, exactly one is true and one is false, exactly, because they cannot both be true together. They cannot both be false together. So one is true, one is false. They can both be false. No, they cannot both be false, also true. So A, B, and D, option D. I'll drink a bit of water. Which of the following statements are so related that if one of them is false, the other must be true, even though both of them can be true? So again, remember the square of opposition, A, E, I and O. So both of them can be true, which is this particular pair, that both of them can be true. Now here also both of them can be true, here also both of them can be true. But in both the subalternations, if one of them is true, the other one does not have to. If one of them is false, the other one does not necessarily have to be true. But in this case, in the subcontrary, if one of them is false, the other one has to be true. And they can be both be true together. So this is this connection that we are looking for, that is I and O. We are looking for I and O connection. So some cars are e-vehicles, that is I. Some cars are not e-vehicles, that is O. We already have a match. No cars, this is E. All cars, this is A. So we have a match between I and O, that is A and B. And you see subjects and predicates are also matching very well. So I and O, that is A and B together. And you can also verify that if one of them is false, that if some cars are not e-vehicles, then of course the other one is true. And if this is false, that some cars are not e-vehicles, we take away the not, then some cars are e-vehicles, like the other one. So if one of them is false, the other one must be true, although both of them can be true together. That some are e-vehicles, some are not e-vehicles, like the actual cars that we have. Which of the following is correct in the context of syllogism? With two negative premises, affirmative conclusion can be drawn. No. Two negative, actually it is possible. Usually that is not the case, but it can be possible that if true negative conclusion is there, an affirmative conclusion can sometimes be drawn. This is true. Predicate of the conclusion is the minor term. Does not have to be, because we have seen that predicate of the conclusion, predicate of the conclusion can be major term, because we have seen in the figures, the four kinds of figures that we have drawn, like MP, SM, and then PM, SM, then MP, MS, and then PM and MS. You can see all of them can interchange positions. So predicate of the conclusion is the minor term. This does not have to be true. Middle term must be distributed at least once in the premises, at least once. See, because the thing is, this is why it is called, this one is called a fallacy, because it does not distribute the middle term. So for the syllogism to be valid, the middle term has to be distributed at least once. This is where the middle term is not distributed. Out here, the middle term is distributed. So it has to be distributed at least once. With two universal premises, particular conclusion can be drawn. No. If both of them are universal, you cannot draw a particular conclusion. This is incorrect. The term distributed in the conclusion must be distributed in the premises. Okay, this is true. So E is also true. So E is true, C is true. Okay, so A is sometimes true, sometimes not true. Okay, so that is why they have not put A, C, E in the option, because A can sometimes be true, sometimes not true, which is why I also didn't initially choose it as the correct option. But again, it can sometimes be true. So this is D, C, and E. If the statement some birds are not mammals is given as true, okay, which of the following statements can be immediately inferred to be false? So we have to look at the false one while this is given as true. So some birds are not mammals. So how can this work? It can either work like this, that birds and mammals are separate category, or birds and mammals are interacting, where some birds are mammals, but other birds are not mammals. So some birds are not mammals. So which of the following statements can immediately be false? So if we say that some mammals are not birds, we don't know that. Talking about birds, we don't know about mammals. Some birds are mammals. Okay, this is false, because it is clearly written that some birds are not mammals. This is true. So if this is true, some birds are not mammals, then some birds are mammals. This can be true, this can be false. No birds are mammals. Okay, this can also be true, it can be false. So no birds are mammals would be this one. Some birds are mammals would be this one. All birds are mammals. This cannot be true. Because the point is, if all birds are mammals, how can some birds be mammals, right? Some birds be not mammals. This one, some birds are mammals, is this particular diagram, and no birds are mammals is this particular diagram. Which of the following statements is logically equivalent to the statement, all beverages are liquid? Okay, so once again, we have it like this, that all beverages can be liquid, or we can also have the same box within beverages and liquid. So all non-liquids are non-beverages. This has to be true. That this is logically equivalent, because anything that if beverages is entirely within liquids, then anything that is not a liquid is not a beverage. Out here also, if they are the same category, anything that is not a liquid is not a beverage. So this is logically equivalent. Some beverages are liquid. No, it says that all beverages are liquid. Not true. All liquids are beverages. This may not be true. Other liquids may not be beverages. Some liquids are beverages. Yes, some liquids. Again, some liquids are beverages. Yes, but it is not logically equivalent because it is talking about all beverages. So option A. And another point that we have to remember when we are talking about logical equivalence, quantifiers all versus all. Although this can be true, the quantifier is some particular while we are looking for universals. Which of the following statements are so related that they cannot both be true nor can they both be false? Again, they are asking for contradictory, which means A and O and E and I. So all mammals are vertebrates. This is an A kind of statement. Some mammals are vertebrates, I kind of statement. Some mammals are not vertebrates, O kind of statement. No mammals are vertebrates, E kind of statement. So again, so we can and see the subject and the predicates are the same. So they can all be compared with each other. So A and O means AC, E and I means BD. So we have AB, no, BD, yes, CD, C, AC is not there. So BD, option B. As per the square of opposition, if the statement some birds are apes is given as false, some birds are apes is given as false, this is not true, then which of the following statements can be immediately inferred to be true? So let's look at it like this. Some birds are apes. So it can be, is it the Venn diagram is birds, apes, with this the interaction. It can also be that birds inside apes. Anyway, both of these has been given to be true. Oh, it can also be like this, where birds and apes are same category. Anyway, all of these have been given to be not true. It is false. So which of the following statements can immediately be inferred to be true? All birds are apes. How can this be the case? If all birds are apes, which means some birds are apes, but it is given as false. So all birds are apes. It is this particular diagram, which we already know is false. So this is false. Some birds are apes. So technically you see some birds are apes. It can be false, but the thing is it can be true. But see, it is given that some birds are apes are already given as false. So some birds are apes. It is the same statement. It is given as false. It cannot be true. No birds are apes, which is this particular diagram, which we do not see is not part of these three. So it can be true, it can be false, at least it has the possibility of being true. So C is there, and you have all birds are not apes. So that is again, not apes is a category that we do not have. All birds are not apes. All birds are not apes. This is the same thing as no birds are apes. So again, C and D is the same. So both of them can be true, C and D only. Just whenever you get categorical syllogisms, draw the Venn diagrams. If it is true, then give a right to all of them. If it is false, then give a cross to all of them. If it is cross, then the Venn diagrams that are not matching, that's the answer. If the statement some rectangles are not squares is given as true, According to the square of opposition, which of the following statements can be immediately inferred to be false? So some rectangles are not squares. So how can all rectangles be square if some of them are not squares? So if this is true, then this has to be immediately false. So option A. We don't even need to look at all of them. But again, if some are not squares, some can be squares. It can be that no rectangles are squares. That can also be true. Some squares are not rectangles. The question is about statement is about rectangle, not square. So we cannot make that inference yet. Which of the following statements are logically equivalent to the statement? Some professors are spiritualists. So first things that you need to understand that this is a sum and a positive statement. So this is a I kind of statement. So whenever you see no spiritualists or professors, this is a the quantifier is not matching. So this cannot be the answer. Some professors are spiritualists. The Venn diagram is like this. So again, let's look at this. It can be like this, that professors, spiritualists. It can be like this. Professors and spiritualists are same. It can also be like this. So some spiritualists are professors. Yes, some spiritualists are professors. Some are professors. So option A can be correct. Some non-spiritualists are not non-professors. We are not given information about non-spiritualists or non-professors. See, only professors, spiritualists are given. So this is not the answer. Some professors are not non-spiritualist. Okay. So we can say that some professors are not non-spiritualist. So not and non. Two negatives, they can cross each other out. So some professors are spiritualists, which is anyway the statement that is given to us. So A and D only is option B, A and D only. Which of the following statements are so related that they can neither both be true nor can they be false together? They cannot both be true, cannot be false together. So contradictory once again. So A and O, E and I. So no saints are materialists. This is E. All saints are materialists. This is A. Some saints are not materialists. O. Some saints are materialists. I. So and as you can see, saint, 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 materialist, 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 materialist. Subject and predicate can be compared. So A and O, which means BC, and E and I, which means AD. A and C, no. B and D, no. A and D, yes. A and D only. And C and D, no. Only BC is the other option. So A and D only, option C. Which of the following statements are so related that if one of them is true, the other must be false and vice versa? If one of them is true, other is false. If one of them, if the other one is false, the other is true. So again, A contradictory, A, O, E, I. All human beings are mortal, A. Some human beings are mortal, I. Some human beings are not mortal, O. No human beings are mortal, E. So A and O means again, see, human beings, human beings, human beings, human beings, mortal, 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 mortal. Subject and predicate same, so can be compared. So this is A and O, which means AC and BD. AC is there, see, BD is not here, so option A. Please subscribe to the channels to get access to more videos like these and more PYQ sessions. Many more sessions will be uploaded in the coming few weeks. Full marathon classes will also be uploaded. And while subscribing, please ensure to press the bell icon. Otherwise, you will miss out on many notifications. Which among the following statements are negatively relevant in the context of fallacies of relevance, which means negatively relevant means it is not there, it is absent. Okay. Dogs are cats, cats are felines, so dogs are felines. Possible if we accept that dogs are cats. Althea is 2 years old, so Althea probably goes to college. How can a 2-year-old go to college? These are not related to each other. So the going to college, the category of going to college does not have a 2-year-old in it, so it is made of absence. So option B is a negatively relevant fallacy. So you can answer even dogs and cats are not the same, that we already know. But the thing is, the premise is mentioning that dogs are cats. So we can trust the premises, but out here, the premises has not mentioned any connection between 2 years old and goes to college. Chris is a woman, therefore Chris enjoys knitting. Maybe. Marty is a high school senior, so Marty has a PhD. How can a high school senior have a PhD? So this is again negatively relevant. That is, they are not relevant with each other. There is an absence of a high school senior in the category of PhD. All dogs have 5 legs. Rover is a dog, so Rover has 5 legs. Even though this is not true in the real world, at least the premises says that it is. But here the premise simply assumes without stating anything. So B and D are incorrect. That is option D, BD. There is no theoretical principle that cannot be put into practice. No theoretical principle that cannot be put into practice, because such theoretical principle is no theoretical principle at all. So which logical fallacy? So it is asked. So just think about it. No theoretical principle cannot be put into practice because such theoretical principle is no principle at all. So what is the underlying assumption? Underlying assumption is that no theoretical principle can be put into practice. No theoretical principle can be put into practice. And the question is it really that case? That is, does it really always have to follow like that? So it is already having an assumption which is not verified to be true. So it is begging the question. Slippery slope means that you start off with one particular fact and then you just keep generalizing from it. Straw man, you use a diluted argument from the real one. There is only one argument. There is no second argument here. Inappropriate authority from a person or a textbook or anything. What authority has been mentioned? But what has been mentioned is that as if no theoretical principle cannot be put into practice, that there is no theoretical principle that cannot be put into practice because such is no principle at all. What about a principle that cannot be put into practice? That is the question that comes into your mind. So begging the question. And that is the easy way of doing it, of finding the question in your mind. Other than that, you can also eliminate these ones and figure out that D is the option. When a shift of meaning arises within an argument as a consequence of changes in the emphasis given to its words or parts is said to be the fallacy of C. Consequence of changes in the emphasis given to its words or parts. For example, I can tell you, I did not steal the money. Somebody else did it. I did not steal the money, which means I took it. I did not steal the money, which means I stole something else. So by emphasizing on different words, I am changing the meaning of the statement, right? So that is an accent. But the way of speaking is called an accent. So it is C was the thing. Yeah, C accent. Not division, not accident or amphiboly. Accident has the generalization. Amphiboly is the same sentence having different meanings. And division, so but different meanings just by the structure of the sentence, not by emphasis. So this is accent. Division we will get to very soon. Professor X has argued in favor of academic tenure. But why should we even listen to Professor X as a tenured professor? Of course, he supports tenure, which means we are thinking that he is looking for his personal benefits rather than any actual opinion. It is related to the fallacy of attacking the motive. We are saying that his motive is not correct. He is looking for personal benefits. He does not have ethical constructs in mind. So look who's talking. Look who's talking. In this case, doesn't apply because in look who's talking, you have to attack the person. So, for example, you stated that X has argued in favor of academic tenure, right? But X is an uneducated person. How can he know anything about academic tenure? That is attacking the person. Or look who is talking. You directly attack the person. But out here, you are attacking the motive of the person rather than the person himself. Not scare tactics. Nobody is trying to scare him. Bandwagon is when everybody agrees, so you also agree. Which among the so bandwagon argument is something like this, that everybody says it is good, so it is good. Which among the following definitions states that the term to be defined is correctly applied to a given case? Okay, if and only if performance of specified operations in that case yields a specific result. So this is the operational definition. That, for example, let's say the operational definition of OCD is the constant obsessive thoughts and repetitive behaviors. And if those operations are there in a person, is a guaranteed case of OCD. So that's an operational definition about what tasks are being done. Synonymous means you are using an analogy or comparison. Ostensive means that you are trying to get into the intensive construct of it. And quasi-ostensive is again the construct but generalizing it a bit. Identify the fallacy in the following. Only man has an immortal soul. Okay. No woman is a man. Therefore, no woman has an immortal soul. This is the problem of equivocation. So the point is that only man has an immortal soul, but this man means mankind. But no woman is a man. This man is referred to as the biological sex. So the same word, that is man, can be used to denote a biological sex and be used to denote mankind as a whole. So this is a problem of equivocation, where the particular word has two different kinds of meaning. Strawman is diluted, red herring is having an entirely different argument to it. Bandwagon is everybody agree. In order to construct a good definition by genus and difference, genus means that it is a, so for example, let's say that you want to define Black Panther. So Black Panther, you can say that it is a kind of leopard which has very high melanin content. So genus is the leopard. So by saying that Black Panther is a leopard, you are stating that everything that is true for a leopard is also true for a Black Panther. That is by genus. But you're also adding the difference that Black Panther has very high melanin content. So that is the genus and difference definition. And that is the unique thing that Black Panther has. So first of all, it should state the conventional intention of the term being defined. Yes, the term that is being defined, that is what should be presented. So it's what is avoided. No, we should not avoid this. So for example, leopard, the normal picture of a leopard that we have will be there in the, will be assumed in the definition. It must state the essential attributes of the term being defined. This is true for any definition. So something that should not be avoided. The definiendium, that is the word that we are describing. For example, Black Panther must appear in the definition. It does not have to be. We can easily say that this animal is a leopard with a very high melanin content. So leopard, high melanin content. See, the term Black Panther is not there. The definition must denote more things than are denoted by the definiendium. No, no, no. Definiendium is the word that we are defining, like Black Panther. The definition should not denote anything more than Black Panther. Then it becomes a bad definition. So these things should be avoided. So C and D should be avoided. The definition should not be negative when it can be affirmative. It can be affirmative. It can say that this is not like other animals or other tigers. So again, not some. It can have specifically. So for example, it is like a leopard, but without those kinds of patterns. Instead, it has a very high melanin content. So in that case, or it is a leopard without any kind of yellow in it. So these are all examples of a negative information be there. So C and D, that is option C, C and D only. Identify the fallacy in the following. There are just 3 types of base hits in a baseball: single, double, and triple. Okay. Slugger got a base hit but didn't get a single or a double. Therefore, Slugger must have gotten a triple. So if you have only 3 options and 2 of them are not there, so it has to be the third. This is not a formal fallacy. This is an informal fallacy. The structure of the argument is not the problem. The premise itself is not true. So what is the fallacy? Questionable cause. It does not talk about any cause why he hit. False alternatives. Exactly. Thinking that this is the only alternatives of single, double, and triple, while there may be more. Loaded question. Loaded question means that, so a loaded question is something like this. that have you stopped stealing? So in that case, if you say yes, it means you used to steal. If you say no, it means you still steal. So it is an assumption that is already accepted in the question without knowing that it's true or not. So this is not loaded question. Appeal to ignorance. That is, I do not know what happened. So as if this is the case. No, that is not the thing. Or I have never seen this to happen. So I do not believe that that happens. That is appeal to ignorance. So this is false alternatives. Identify the fallacy in the following argument. Alan is tall, dark, and handsome and has blue eyes. Okay. Bill is also tall, dark, and handsome. Therefore, Bill probably has blue eyes too. This is, as you can see, comparison, and the comparison is not a very strong one because tall, dark, and handsome does not necessarily mean that you will be having blue eyes. So it is a weak analogy. Inconsistency means true sometimes, other times not. Slippery slope and hasty generalization. You take something small and then turn it into something much bigger. This is the slope. Which among the following is not a form of fallacy of defective induction? Defective induction means the information that is there is not properly handled or properly taken into account. So argument from ignorance. Of course, that is you are not you do not have enough information and hence you are saying that this is not true. Complex question and hasty general begging the question should be the case here, because complex question assumes that for example, have you stopped cheating? It already assumes that you used to cheat. Similarly, begging the question that no cheater can ever be a good person in later life already assumes that no cheater can ever change. So since the questions, the assumptions are already assumed, accepted without any verification, these are fallacies of defective induction. The information present has not been verified properly. So B and E. See, false cause, hasty generalization, you have a bit of information from which you are generalizing. Or let's say from ignorance. You are saying, I do not know, and you are focusing it on the not knowing part. But complex question, begging the question, you are assuming something to be true, which you do not have evidence for. What among the following exemplifies extension of a term that is empty? Pen, book, God, bag. So this is God. Because extension, it means that you are trying to make it into real, which it actually may not be. And the term that is empty. So for example, a term empty means that within the category, there is nothing that has an extension. That is, there is no real world representation of it. You have pen, real world representation, book, real world representation, bag, even though the object can look empty, you have many bags in the real world, but you do not have any real world representation of God. So extension that is empty, that is God, because extension is real world representation. Because every part of a certain machine is light in weight, the machine as a whole is light in weight. This commits the fallacy of composition. So we are assuming that what is true for each and every part, the machine as a is true for the entire machine. So for example, here's the thing. So fallacy of composition is every cell in our body will be dying within 5 to 7 years and be replaced by another cell. Does not mean that we as a whole will be dying every 7 years and replaced by another person. No. So that is the fallacy of composition, where we are thinking whatever works for each unit, each individual unit, as if it works for the whole thing. The opposite is fallacy of division, that whatever works for the whole, we think it works for each individual parts. That is fallacy of division. So composition is smaller or parts to whole. Accent is emphasis, amphiboly is separate meaning. Arrange the following in order of decreasing denotation. Denotation, remember, denotation is large, connotation is small for these kinds of question. So decreasing denotation means that it is going from larger category to smaller category, from larger category to smaller category. So we have, so science is the largest category here, then natural sciences, then physics, then nuclear physics. So CBAD. CBAD, option A. Which fallacy is committed in the following argument? Ambassador cards have almost disappeared. Okay. This is an ambassador card, therefore this card has almost disappeared. So ambassador cards, this is a full large category, while this ambassador card is just one part of the category. So whatever is true for the whole, we are considering to be true for the each individual part. So this is the fallacy of division. Composition is from parts to whole, division is from whole to parts. Arrange the following terms in order of decreasing intention. So remember, what was extension? Extension was large. So decreasing extension was going from large to small. So decreasing intention is the opposite, going from small to large. So we have to go from small to large. So if we'll have to look at this, then baseball player, athlete, fielder, ball player. So athlete is the biggest one here. After that, you have ball player, because within ball player, a specific category is baseball player. While you can play many kinds of balls, baseball player, baseball is one kind of game. So A, and within a baseball player, within the positions, you have a fielder, that is C. This is going from large to small. So we have to reverse it to get small to large, that is C, A, D, B. Do we have it? C, A, D, B? Yes, C, A, D, B, option C. A line is composed of points. Points have no length, therefore a line has no length. So this you already know, this is the fallacy of composition. We are thinking whatever is true of each of the individual parts is as if true for the entire thing, that is the line. So fallacy of composition. If one eats mushrooms after a long gap of time, one falls ill. So this is a hypothetical syllogism. Hypothetical syllogism. The format is if P, then Q. So if one eats mushrooms after a long gap of time, one falls ill. I have been having some digestive issues since morning today. That is, he is saying that I have fallen ill. He is confirming that this has happened. Therefore, there must have been mushroom in that mixed vegetable soup that we had last night. What fallacy? This is affirming the consequent. So whatever happens before is the antecedent, whatever happens later is the consequent. He said the consequent has happened, hence there were mushrooms. But while mushrooms does lead to you falling ill, the person, nobody said that mushroom is the only way that you can fall ill. Maybe you had some other problems, other issues, other things that you have eaten. Maybe the water was problematic. So whenever you are just affirming the consequent, that does not necessarily mean that that you have had mushrooms, because or the antecedent is true, because the same consequent can be reached by multiple antecedents. So if this has happened, then this will happen. If this has happened, then this will happen. But if the consequent has happened, then any of these three options can be true. So we cannot guarantee that antecedent has happened. So this is affirming the consequent, option B. Assertion: a vessel has mass, so all parts of the ship have mass. Is a division. What is true for the large part, the whole, we are thinking is true for all the individual parts also. So the idea is that we have emotions. Does that mean that each and every cell in our body has emotions? So it is an illogical statement, because this is a fallacy, right? So whenever, and this is a formal fallacy, the structure of the problem, the structure is itself the problem. Whatever is true for this does not have to be true for each individual part. So the structure itself is a fallacy. For formal fallacies, it is not even a logical statement, so illogical statements. It can have ill-considered generalization flaws, but that would be if it is after all an informal fallacy and the logical reasoning is straight. The logic itself does not follow. It's a formal fallacy. So option D, illogical statement. Which of the following are arranged in the order of decreasing denotation? Denotation means large. So decreasing denotation means from large too small. So animals, smaller than that is vertebrates, smaller than that is birds, smaller than that is sparrows. Correct. Sparrows, birds are larger than sparrows. Animals, birds, vertebrates. Again, vertebrates larger than birds. Sparrows, vertebrates are larger than sparrows. So not working. Animals, then vertebrates, then birds, then sparrows. Identify the fallacy committed in the following statement. Water is a non-poisonous compound. Therefore, its components oxygen and hydrogen are non-poisonous. This is again fallacy of division. Why so many questions of fallacy and division of composition in the same slide? Now I'll check. Molecules are in random motion. Again, the same. Qutub Minar is composed of molecules. Therefore, Qutub Minar is constant random motion. So you are thinking of each individual part and then going to the whole. So this is a fallacy of composition. All phenomena and in the universe are saturated with moral values. Therefore, we can conclude that the universe for the Chinese is a moral universe. So we are thinking basically all phenomena within the universe that the part has moral values. So the large part, that is the universe, the whole, that should also have moral values. And so the universe for the Chinese, which is the same for universe for everybody, we all live in the same universe, also has the same moral values. So going from parts to whole, so this is fallacy of composition. Political stability is indispensable to economic progress because economic progress can only be achieved by means of political stability. So understand this. So as if it is stating that, so political stability will lead to economic progress. Why? Because political stability will lead to economic progress. That's like saying that you should have this apple. Why should you have this apple? Because this apple is something that is good for you. Why is it good for you? Because this apple is something that you should have. Just tell me what exactly is good about it. So basically, you are not giving the answer. You are just going in circles one after the other. Why is political stability indispensable to economic progress? Because economic progress cannot be achieved without political stability. So the point is, it is a circular argument. Circular argument means that it is a begging the question argument. That is what exactly the begging the question. You eat apple. Apple, you should have apples. Why? Because apples are good for you. Why are apples good for you? Because you should have it. I'm begging the question. Tell me, why is the apple good for me? To solve our transportation problems, we have to put more money into the production of bicycles, says the CEO of ABCD Company Limited. Which of the following fallacy is committed in the above argument? So CEO of ABCD Company, they may not be an expert in transportation problems. So it is an appeal to inappropriate authority. We don't know if ABCD Company is a car company or traffic company or anything like that. It's just the CEO of the company. So inappropriate authority. Slippery slope is from one particular thing to many others. Ad hominem is direct attack to a personality. It's a generalization again from one small thing to a larger areas. Identify the formal fallacy committed in the argument. One way humanity could die out is if the sun stopped functioning. So, if the sun stopped functioning, then we would surely go extinct. Again, it is a hypothetical syllogism with the format of if P, then Q. So if we all go extinct, it must have been because our sun stopped working. Again, the same problem. That is, this is the antecedent. If the sun stopped functioning, then we would go extinct. That is the consequent. So if we go extinct, that is affirming the consequent as if the sun has stopped working. No, we can go extinct because of wars also, for nuclear bombs also. So this is a form of that the fallacy of a single cause. We are assuming that we can go extinct in only one particular way. So this is affirming the consequent, that as if we have gone extinct. So this second part is the one that is accepted. So affirming the consequent, that is option D. Okay, again, subscription alert. The lessons are there in this channel. You will be regularly getting PYQ sessions, short exam updates, strategies, full marathon sessions of classes. So please please subscribe to get all the notifications. Please remember to press the bell icon and not just the personalized one, because then you will not get all the notifications. 76. Point out the logical fallacy made in the following argument. Please not be quiet. All Russians were revolutionaries. Okay. All anarchists were revolutionaries. That is why all anarchists were Russians. So the problem out here is it can easily be that revolutionaries is a big group within which you have all Russians and within which you have all anarchists. Now, anarchists, all Russians are revolutionaries. See, all anarchists were revolutionaries, matching. That is why all anarchists were Russians. This may not be matching because revolutionaries, this term is not distributed. So the problem is that it is a fallacy of undistributed mean. We do not have information about all revolutionaries. This we do not know. Fallacy of four terms means that there is another term other than Russian, revolutionary, and anarchist, which is not here. Inductive premises, no, we are talking about all sentences, right? So this is deductive. Fallacy of illegal process, that is as if the reasoning itself is problematic, as if we are using inductive and deductive, which is not the case. The mean or revolutionaries, the mean is undistributed. We do not know about all revolutionaries. So option C. One sec, please. Answer the If you love hotcakes and you love ice creams, then you will surely love hotcake ice cream. Which fallacy is this? So you are thinking of each individual parts and then thinking that the whole is also something that will be loved, that is having the same properties. So this is the fallacy of composition. Statement 1. A fallacy is a defect in an argument that consists of something other than merely false premises. Exactly. This is why you have informal fallacies, where and you can even have formal fallacies, where even if the premises are true, then also with invalid reasoning you can have untrue conclusions, like we did in affirming the consequent. Statement 2. If an argument is unsound or uncogent, it has one or more false premises, okay, or it contains a fallacy or both. So it is saying that if it is unsound or uncogent, then either the premise is false or the logic is wrong. So that is what happens, because soundness is equal to true premises plus valid reasoning. Cogency means true premises plus strong reasoning. So if one of them is vanishing, if premises are false, or if valid or strong reasoning is vanishing because of a fallacy, then soundness or cogency is also vanishing. It becomes unsound or uncogent. So statement 2. So both statement 1 and statement 2 are correct. Which of the following is arranged in order of increasing connotation? Increasing connotation. So first of all, connotation means that it is getting into smaller. So denotation means large, right? So decreasing denotation means from larger to small. So connotation is the opposite of denotation. So decreasing connotation again, or increasing connotation again, means from large to small, because connotation means smaller. Increasing connotation means we are going on smaller and smaller and smaller. So large to small. Cow, bovine. No, cow is large, is smaller than bovine. No, so it has to be large to small. Mammal, vertebrate, then bovine, then animal. No, animal is larger than bovine. Vertebrate, animal, mammal, bovine, cow. This is true. No, actually animal is larger than vertebrate. So this is also not true. Animal, vertebrate, mammal, bovine, cow. Animal is the largest, then vertebrate, then mammal, then bovine, and then cow. It is so obvious that this world was created by an intelligent God. Just look at the amazing degree of organization that the world displays. Which fallacy is committed? That can a or organized world not be created by itself? Does it have to have a God? That is begging the question. You can see it is not fallacy of composition. There is no parts to wholes out here. No strawman. out here, that is not using a diluted version of the argument. No false cause here also, because it is not talking about a cause of the world or why exactly the world is this way. It is simply saying that as if organization is proof of the presence of intelligent God. It does not discuss how exactly God is creating. So it is begging the question. Now we get to Indian logic. According to Nyay, knowledge that is not derived through the instrumentality of other knowledge. This means that knowledge that you can directly get, you do not need to rely on any other kind of knowledge like reasoning or authority or anything like that. You directly get, which is Pratyaksha. Pratyaksha is your direct perception. Anumana is logical reasoning. Shabda is from authority. Anupalabdhi is not seeing something. For example, I do not see the glass anywhere in the room, which means the glass is in some other room. That is anupalabdhi. That is your not seeing. According to Advaitins, that is Advaita Vedantins, non-existence of the effect in its material cause previous to coming to existence is known as pragabhava. It means that so bhava is the essence of something, and the point is before the essence has come into being, that is existence of the effect in its material cause. Material cause is the way it is made. So for example, the effect of table is to be used for eating, but that is possible only if the table is made through the wood, right? So before making it, before the essence being present abstractly, before actually coming into existence, is known as pragabhava. That is before. Bhava means existing, before existence. Praga is earlier, bhava is existence. So praga bhava, before existence. Satpatipaksha Hedbhavasa is also known as Prakaran Sama. Okay, because the point is Sat Pratipaksha. Sat means that is real, Pratipaksha. Pratipaksha is from comparison. So Pratipaksha you are seeing right directly in front of you. Sat Pratipaksha is that something that you always see in front of you. So Sat Pratipaksha is comparison. Prakaran Sama is also example or comparison. So it is Sat Pratipaksha is the same as Prakaran Sama. According to Vedanta, Vyapti is the universal essence. So, for example, if you say that where there is smoke, there is fire, which means that you are assuming that smoke and fire is always related. They will always be related. So that is Vyapti, the basic assumption on which you make a conclusion. So it is the result of tadatmaya or essential identity. This is true. Result of an induction by simple enumeration. No. Vyapti is the assumption that you start with. You are not using reasoning to get to Vyapti. Once you have gotten the Vyapti, then you use reasoning on top of it. But you don't get the Vyapti through reasoning. This is the result of tadutpatti or causality. Again, reasoning, not the answer. Is the result of contradicted experience of the relationship between two things. Contradicted experience, no. In Vyapti, you accept that this is actually what is happening. So it is not a contradicted experience. According to the answer is, according to classical Indian logicians or Naikas, which of the following arguments commits the fallacy of irregular middle? Irregular middle means that the middle term, remember in the Indian logic, how do you find out the middle term? The middle term is the hetu. Hetu means cause. So the because or hence or therefore, to the terms that are written after because, after hence, after therefore, these are the middle term in classical Indian logic. So sound is, and it is an irregular middle, which means it is not matching the category. Sound is a quality because it is visible. Okay, but a quality sound is not visible. There is no link between sound and visibility. Sound is eternal because it is produced. Again, eternal and produced does not match, because if it is produced, eternal means it has been there for eternity, from beginning of time. So how can it stay there from the beginning of time? It has to be, if it was produced by something, so that something, whatever produced it, must exist before it, right? So it cannot be eternal. So again, there is no link between eternal and produced, no link between sound and visible. So these are not what we are looking for. Sound is eternal because it is audible. Well, even non-eternal things can be audible. For example, this music of a guitar. Guitar was produced much later, so but that is also audible. So this is irregular middle. Fire is cold because it is a substance. Fire is not cold. So see, the all three of them, the problem or the fallacy is that the terms are not related to each other. The Vyapti is not there. But out here, sound is eternal because it is audible. Sound is audible, but non-eternal things can also be audible. So the middle is that because it is audible, the middle is irregular. It can allow many things. So option C, which is correct about Visam Vyapti. Visam Vyapti, which basically means universal affirmative. Okay, so this is the A kind of statement. A particular proposition, it is not particular. Universal proposition of which only the subject is distributed. Yes, because A is all dogs are mammals, right? So all dogs, the subject is distributed, predicate is not distributed, like dogs, mammals. We don't know about all the rest of the mammals. A universal proposition in which both subject and predicate are distributed, this is not the case. Particular proposition of which only predicate is distributed, again it is not particular, so not the case. So option B. In the light of perception, according to Vedanta, which among the following are correct? The modification of antakarana is on par with the conscious. Yes, antakarana is the inner reason. So when we look at something, we try to figure out what is the cause of it. We try to figure that the anta, inside, karan or reason. So inside cause of the particular thing, and it is on par with the conscious. So antakarana, the way we modify our inner reason is by consciously thinking about it. So A is true. Where's my yes? In perception of an external object, manas goes out to the object. Manas is our thoughts, the immediate thoughts that we have. Buddhi, so in Western psychology, cognition and perception and intelligence is all part of cognition. But in Indian psychology, manas is the immediate consciousness that we have, while buddhi is the rational and logical knowledge that we have. So when we are thinking of an external object, perceiving it, the manas, our immediate thought, goes out to the object. And how does it go out? Through the senses, that is through the indriya that we have. On reaching the object, antakarana is identified with it. No, antakarana is what we have inside. It is not something that will automatically be identified with the object. In perception, manas goes out to the one external object through antakarana. No, antakarana is the inner reason, the one we interpret. This is not the tool that we are using to receive information. This is the interpretation. In perception, manas goes out to the external object through the sense organs or the indriya. So A, B, and E only, option C. Which school among the following upholds perception as an unerring knowledge of the unique particular? This is Buddhism. Because Nyaya, Vaisheshika, Jain, Nyaya and Vaisheshika are Vedic schools. Jain and both the Nyaya, Vaisheshika and Vedic schools and the Jain school, they believed in the existence of an absolute reality which we have to reach. That is the goal of moksha or liberation. But in Buddhism's nirvana and liberation, we don't mix with some absolute reality. We cease to exist entirely. That is there, we vanish into nothingness. Nothing remains anymore. So that is, nothing means particular. It is not absolute or universal. According to Naikas, the universal soundness or sabdatva inherent in sound is perceived true. So sadvatva means the quality of sound, the inherent quality of sounds that makes it a sound. For example, what makes a male, a female a female? Male is XY chromosome, female is double X chromosome. So this is the inherent quality that makes something the object that it is. So it is not samavaya. Samavaya is simply your understanding of the object. For example, the property of sound, that is samavaya, that you can always see. But samaveta samavaya, this means that, so for example, let's think of a table. So whatever makes a table, for example, a place on which you can sit and eat, that is something that is always there. That is samavaya. But is that particular specific property of table always there with the table only? No, it can be there for any other kinds of place on which you can keep food and eat. But if you say it's a large wooden furniture with 4 legs to it or some legs to it on which you can have chairs, then it is attached to the table itself. Then it cannot be attached to any other object on which you can also eat. So when it is attached to it, that is together unification, that is samaveta. Samavaya is the essence and samaveta is the essence is attached to the particular object only. So samaveta samavaya. Samajukta samaveta samavaya, this is when this particular this particular essence of the table is now associated with all other furniture or wooden stuff like chair or like chair, like sofa, like boards, anything. But that is not the case. This is only for universal soundness or inherent in sound, only in sound. It is not talking about unification with all other things. So it is not samavukta samavaya, samaveta samavaya. According to Advaitis, this is not that represents annonna bhava. So for example, a tiger is not a lion. A cat is not a dog. Annonna means annonna is absence. And so, annonna is the comparison. Bhava is existence. Abhava is non-existence. So annonna, that is comparison, is not existing. So annonna bhava, this is not that. Which among the following is incorrect? For the Jainas, Shabda Pramana is reduced to Anumana. No. Jains, they did believe in the scriptures, so they did believe in authority and Shabda. For Buddhists, Shabda is not an independent Pramana. This is true. Because Buddhists, they did not have scriptures. In fact, Buddha had himself stated, please do not make any scriptures after my death. This is not a religion. So they did not believe in authority. Knowledge has to be gained personally. For Mimamsa and Vedantis, so they are all Vedic schools, so they did believe in the Vedas, which means in scriptures. So Shabda is an independent Pramana, that is Vedas. Shabda is a source of valid knowledge. According to Naikas, when we perceive one pot, we perceive the universal potness as its defining property due to Shamanna Lakshmana. Shamanna Lakshmana. Shamanna is, that is, the for the pot, the potness. This potness applies only to the object that we are receiving. But Gana Lakshana, this is generalized. That is, we are seeing multiple different kinds of pots, and from there we are finding one common potness. But out here, we are seeing the potness from one pot. So this is Shamanna. This is minimal. When we see a lot of it, then it is Gana Lakshana or generalized. Brahma, according to Naya, is Shriti, Sanksha, Vikalpa, Jathartha. Jathartha, Jat means justified, Artha is meaning. So Prama, according to Naya, is valid knowledge, so justified meaning. According to Naya, remember, Sriti, Sanksha, Vikalpa, these are all aprama or improper knowledge. According to classical Indian school of logic, Naya, the argument sound is eternal because it is produced. How can eternal be produced? The middle term and the major term is not connected to each other. It is fallacious because the middle term, instead of being pervaded by the presence of major term, is pervaded by its absence. That is because, you remember in Indian school of logic, because or hetu, this is the this is the middle term. So because it is produced, so produced is the middle term. But among the category of things that are produced, eternal is not there. Eternal means non-produced. So eternal, it is actually absent in the middle term rather than being present here. So option A. As per classical Indian school of logic, which of the following fallacies is committed when the middle term is too wide? That is sadharana. Sadharana is general. Asadharana is particular. So when it is too wide, it is too general. Which of the following fallacious arguments involves an unprovable middle term? The middle term cannot be proven at all. So sound is eternal because it is produced. Produced can be proven. It has a cause. Fire is cool, hence it is a substance. Fire and cool is not related and can be proven. The sky lotus is fragrant because it is a lotus similar to a lotus in the lake. What is the sky lotus? How do you prove it? You have no evidence for it. This is unprovable middle term. The hill is superior because it is knowable. If it is knowable, it is provable. Which of the following arguments is fallacious because middle term is non-exclusive? All things are non-eternal because they are knowable. The point is eternal and non-eternal both are knowable. So it is not exclusive. Knowable is not exclusive to non-eternal things. The hill has fire because it is knowable. Well, once again, the point is the hill has the knowable category. It applies to many different things, but hill has fire just because it is knowable. That means it makes fire. It is not directly logically linked. Fire is cold, again not logically linked. Eternal and produced, again not logically linked. Okay, I think the answer. It was the correct answer. Actually, I was remembering the which Hedvavasa. The option B is so far because it is knowable. This is the Hedvavasa of Anupasamhari. So this is not the answer out here. Which of the following is incorrect in the context of Vyapti? Vyapti is the universal essence. For Charvakas, it is possible to ascertain that smoke is invariably and universally attended with fire all the time. It is incorrect. So this is true because Charvakas, they were extreme empiricists. They did not believe that there can be any true Vyapti, because for you to say that smoke is always associated with fire, as if you know all the smoke that and fire that is going on in the entire world, which you do not. So Charvakas do not ascertain that we can ever have any true knowledge of Vyapti. For Buddhists, universal relationship between smoke and fire can be ascertained even without examining all the possible causes, because Buddhists did believe in logical reasoning. Vedantis believed in logical reasoning, so Vyapti between smoke and fire is known to coexist, and at the same time is never known to not accompany a smoke. So this is from authority. For Naikas, it is neither easy nor necessary to formation of universal proposition to assertion any relation of causality. You don't have to know everything to say that I see whatever I see. That is the Nyaya philosophy. So option A, Charvaka. Which of the following statements are correct as per the classical Indian school of logic? Nyaya syllogism has 3 propositions. No, it has 5 propositions. It has 5 propositions, correct? Has 3 terms, yes. Saddha, Paksha and Hetu. Nyaya syllogism has 5 terms. No, only 3 terms. So this is also not true. So the correct answer is B and C. Option B and C only. In the context of Anumana or inference, the presence of the middle term in the minor term is called Paksha Dharmata. So the Sadhya, this is the major term. Paksha, this is the minor term, and Hetu, this is the middle term, right? So Paksha Dharmata, that is Paksha is on the minor term. So for example, middle term on the minor term. Example, the hill is there is fire on the hill because you can see the smoke from the hill. So the smoke is directly on the hill. The smoke is dependent on the hill. Without the hill, you cannot ascertain the smoke. The smoke does not exist without the hill. So which is why it is the presence of the middle term in the minor term is called Paksha Dharmata. The Paksha is present in the Dharma. Thank you, everybody. Please remember to subscribe for all the other PYQ sessions and marathon classes that will soon be taken. The updates for the new course that will be starting from the end of July or beginning of August will also be uploaded very soon. So please remember to press the bell icon so that you get all the notifications that are there. Thank you, everybody. Next session, it will be on research aptitude. Again, 100 PYQs.